All right, welcome to the Chantay Golson Show, where we help entrepreneurs and executives, starting with C-level and above, tools that are readily available to assist them in their responsibility to maintain energy, productivity, wellness, wealth, productivity, outcomes, and the list goes on, cash flow. So thank you for joining me today on the Chantay Golson Show. If you have any questions for me, any announcements for me, as well as if you would like for a certain topic to be discussed, go ahead and send me a message at anchor.fm/Chantay Golson /message, and I'll make sure I'll get back with you publicly concerning that. Well, I want to welcome my guest today, Jen Anderson. She's here to help us to understand more about her company and how her company can help entrepreneurs and leaders in their particular productivity aspect. And so welcome, Jen, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. No problem. Anything that can help my audience become the better or the best at whatever they do, I am all welcoming arms for that. So you have a company called Accomplist. When did you open your company or spearhead your company?
We just incorporated a couple of months ago. It's been just an absolute avalanche of activity. It started a couple of years ago when a friend of mine who's a programmer, Anthony Piercy, was in between freelance assignments and was looking for an app idea. And at the same time, I was wailing and gnashing my teeth and pulling my hair out trying to find a to-do app that worked for me as a freelancer and who's juggling several different things. And I couldn't. So we designed it, and it took us a little while to get his availability so that he could actually build it. And so now we're ready to go.
Okay, so the company is Accomplist, but the app is also called Accomplist, to my understanding, a to-do app for people who really need to stop trying to do too much is your mantra there.
Yes.
So here is what I'm curious about. What makes Accomplist different from the other to-do lists, or apps?
And even from other paper systems, it's a little different. Every other system assumes that you want to forget, you don't want to forget. You're afraid that you're going to forget something. Mm-hmm. And if it's important enough to put down a list, it is important enough for them to remind you. And we don't start that way. We begin with the assumption that you're trying to do too much, because you probably are. And at least in my case, there are things on my to-do list that are never going to happen. I needed to write them down to get them out of my head. Mm-hmm. And they're projects that, that'd be a great idea to do that. It'd be really nice if I could do this. No, it's something that doesn't need to get done. I don't need to clean the baseboards or call people I don't even like. There's just so many different things that we want to do and think we should do, and then we just don't get to them. And then in other to-do apps, or even on a piece of paper, it carries over. You have 10 things on your list, you do 9 of them, and all you see is the one thing you didn't cross out. No matter how stupid that one thing was, no matter, maybe it's something you do daily and you just didn't get to it today and you've done it every other day for the past week, all you see is that you didn't do that.
So your philosophy is, if there's something left on your to-do list, then you don't feel accomplished. And that's one reason why you built this. So tell us how Accomplist, the app, can increase someone's productivity.
A couple of different ways. For starters, it takes away this pressure to be perfect and this pressure to get everything done. The amount of time and energy that people put in, at least that I put in, to feeling bad about myself and beating myself up and thinking, I need to put more stuff on my to-do list. Why am I not trying harder? Mm-hmm. That's just a waste of time. And the thing is that when we try to do less, we're actually more efficient and more productive that way, because we feel less overwhelmed. Overwhelm can stop you in your tracks for hours, where you're just bouncing around from here to there. Mm-hmm. And my other philosophy is that you should put your entire invisible mental load on your list. Some people say to avoid overwhelm, just put one or two or three things on it and just focus on that. But then you're still carrying around in your head, I have to decide what to have for lunch. I have to decide what to have for dinner. I have to stop and make dinner. I have to call a few people, make some social plans. There's all these things that we just carry around in our head that are invisible, that we
Mm-hmm.
need to make them visible, because when you see them on the list, you actually see how much you're trying to do. My big mistake is always to look at the list and say, oh, I can do more than that. That's not enough. And I'll put more things on, and I'm forgetting all of the invisible things that I'm doing.
In other words, you were bullying yourself by doing too much, and then you found yourself being, excuse me, overwhelmed. Can you give us a quick walkthrough, a visual walkthrough of what the app looks like? How user friendly is it? How do we operate it? How do we put our things in it? What does it do to help us with this particular task of decreasing stress?
Well, it's fairly intuitive because the most to-do apps are fairly similar. There's just conventions that we follow. This one, like the Getting Things Done, David Allen's system, has different lists. So you can have home, office, different clients could have their own lists, things like that. So you can split things up like that, but you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And you can assign due dates. And for me, my partner and I keep going back and forth on this. I think that it's going to be easier to create a task on a desktop through the web browser.
Okay.
He thinks everyone's going to be using it on mobile, but I think that there's just enough complexity, at least in how I run my life, that I'm going to want to see the view. Maybe on the iPad it will actually look. I've got not great eyesight, so I need as big as possible.
Okay.
For people a little with better eyes, they might actually be fine on a little phone.
Mm-hmm.
But you can create subtasks. You can leave them attached to that task, or you can spin them out into separate tasks. You can assign a due date, a start date. You can assign it to a habit tracker. It's essentially a report. All your different habits. I want to take a meditation break. I need to drink enough water. I need to stop drinking caffeine at a certain time. All that. It's easier to remember if it's on your list.
Okay.
So along with everything else. So you can just check those off on your to-do list and then look at your habit tracker at the end of the day or anytime during the day. Mm-hmm. So there's fun things like that, repeating tasks and multi-day tasks. If there's a start date and end date, or it's just repeating, it will show up. If you look at your weekly view, it will actually have a column for each day, and you will actually see your repeating task listed every day. Other apps don't do that, and that is the functionality that had me losing my mind trying to find something.
Which is the difference between the other apps?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, for freelancers and entrepreneurs, we have a lot of things that we try to do every day, and we're not necessarily going to get to it. And, things like going on LinkedIn to do some networking. If I have a deadline, I'm not going to have time to get to it, that sort of thing. And so being able to see exactly everything that's on my plate, I will be able to see how much room I have later in the week to add more tasks.
Okay. All right. So it gives you a big overview of your particular week, and then that helps you to make decisions on what's important or not to add to your list. Okay. So for those entrepreneurs as well as executives, it sounds like it's something that can be really used. And I think that is a great thing that you're considering those that have visual impairments as well in the development of your app. So how often do you and your partner continue to reform your app? Sometimes apps are made and they're just dropped, right?
Right.
Nobody's really fine tuning in the back. So how do we know that our membership is going to be honored and respected by continued updates?
We don't have a schedule in place now. Maybe once a month, maybe every 2 months, we're going to have to roll out bug fixes. Of course, in my past tech career, I did software testing. So I think I'm certainly hope my own ego rests on us releasing it with absolutely no bugs. But we know that people are going to have requests on different functionality. There might be some stuff that we decide to add. I designed this app because I want to use it. So if I see something in there that I want to add on to, we're going to do it. And we're not going to respond to every single request that people make, because maybe sometimes someone makes something that's just not within our mission. But we're going to check with all our users and find out what kind of enhancements that we can add. And
so you're open for feedback on a continual basis as long as it aligns with your goal. And I think that's a good point. Some people may say, Well, gosh, you're not going to ABCD. No, I think that as an entrepreneur, it's very important to have your goals, your purpose in mind as to whatever you're doing, because it's so easy to allow other people opinions to take you here, there, and you get out of sync at what the mission was initially. So I think that's a good point. I wanted to bring that out because I didn't want your statement to resonate in other people's ears to hear what you weren't saying. And so from that, are you stating that you were inspired to create this app because of your own needs, or were there any other inspirations?
No, it's just my own needs. I'm a recovering perfectionist. At the time that we conceived the app and started designing it, I was still beating myself over my perfectionism.
Mm-hmm.
And I've started over the past couple of years have kind of broken that habit through therapy and making collages, making art that's no good, that sort of thing. And so that has helped me in my personal growth and to stop beating myself up. So that it fed into the app.
Mm-hmm.
There's, those things that you don't get to, the way that you can actually make them go away at Accomplist is you can mark them skipped. We're not going to add them to your next day's list. We're just going to leave it there. And so you can ignore it forever, or you can go back and you can mark it skipped to make it go away. Because in other apps, especially with repeating tasks, you either have to delete it or mark it finished. And if you didn't finish it, you feel like you're lying to yourself.
Okay.
But so this way, I just want to normalize that you're not going to get to everything. So you can mark something skipped, you can mark it delegated, and just it's gone away, but I didn't do it, and that's fine.
So two things that I heard you say that I want to kind of put some input in to the app, if that's appropriate at this particular time, is how do I go back to pick up the skip item? That's number one. And number two, how do I measure the delegation process? Because delegation just alone without follow through or follow up is is a mess. Because if you put just these things in somebody's hand, but you don't follow up, you don't know what is completed, nor do you know how to move on to the next level. So kind of talk to me about that and how your uh, app kind of help with those things.
Okay, well, for skipped, when you can, the day of, you can look at your day's list and you can go into, the detailed view of any task and you can mark it completed, or you can mark it skipped or delegated. You can do it that way. Or you can look back at past days. You can see the days that are coming, but you can also go to the past and you'll see what was crossed out and what just wasn't, what is just sitting there. And so you can then go there and mark them skipped or in the original list that they're in. If they're in a list by client, if they're just in the inbox, whatever, they don't just disappear because you didn't do it.
Okay.
And with delegated right now, it's up to you. It depends on your system. If it's something where you can trust someone else to do it, you can just mark it delegated. Go to the store, pick up the kids, that kind of thing, or you have a virtual assistant who is just going to get it done. Then you can just mark that delegated, and maybe you want to create another one saying, follow up with my virtual assistant to make sure that they got done with this, that sort of thing.
Well, can I put a note as to who I delegated it to or what time I gave them to complete it? Can I put something like that in there?
Absolutely. There's, aside from putting in subtasks and dates and all that, there is a notes field where you can enter anything you want.
Okay, so going back to the skip, it sounds like it would be doable as far as having a busy schedule to go back for that week to thumb through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for the skipped items, but I imagine it would be more taxing for greater than a week. So that may be a question that comes up for you later. I don't know. But tell me, what is your personal productivity strategy?
My strategy is, well, right now, because the app is not at a point where I can be using it right now, my system right now is completely falling apart. It's Post-it based. If I think I have to do something and the Post-its aren't within reach, then there's a problem. But for me, it is write down everything. If I have to remember it, it's not staying in my brain. It's going on a Post-it, on a piece of paper, in my planner. It has to be in some place where I can go look for it.
So when can your consumers expect the app to be ready to roll out for their access?
Mid-September. With the Apple Store, the App Store review process, it's not very transparent, so we don't know how many days it will take them to review it. So I don't want to say September 15th when then it would be September 18th because it took them, a few days to review it. Who knows? It could take a day. I have no idea, and that's just the case with any app. But by the end of September, this thing will be ready to rock in the Apple Store and the Google Play Store.
So I have about two more questions that I
Mhm.
want to ask you, but one of the questions I want to ask you, you may mention that you have gone to therapy and done other practices to help you to become this lack of perfectionist, just paraphrasing. What were some of the cons of being a ongoing to do writer and never complete? What were some of the downfalls of being that type of person and having that type of expectations on yourself?
Constant stress. It was just this burden. It takes up space in my brain that
Hmm.
because it takes time to sit there and feel bad about yourself, and it's a distraction. It's just one more thing that you don't need. So that really started to affect my physical health. I suffer from migraines. I've had them since I was 11 or 12 years old, and they became a lot worse once I went into business for myself as a freelance writer and put all this pressure on myself
Hmm.
because the meanest, strictest boss I've ever had is myself.
Wow.
So trying to please that person is impossible. And I like this person, so telling her where to go is not an option.
Hmm.
So it really held me back and caused overwhelm. And of course, with migraines, it isn't just pain, you get brain fog. So I can't write or even speak that clearly when I have a migraine. So the fewer migraines I have, the more productive I actually can be. And
Right.
for other people, it might be back pain that's caused by their stress and their pressure, or sometimes your body just decides, okay, you've had enough, you have to stop, and you hurt your back before, so I'm just going to make it keep hurting. That
Hmm.
sort of thing. There's an app called Curable Health that walks you through the mind body health concept, and there's all these exercises, and there's different doctors and different apps and different ways of walking through that. But essentially, it's retraining your brain to not be in pain and to address the root causes, any stress that you have that is exacerbating any existing pain. Something
Okay.
that's making the migraines worse is causing more migraines. My nervous system, because I suffer from migraines, my migraineur, um, my nervous system is constantly over agitated. So I need to, it's always on the edge of being pushed over the cliff. So I need to soothe it and bring it back from the edge a little bit so that there are fewer migraines.
And there are some linkages here in terms of what you're stating towards what I teach, because we have to be careful on trying to cure the symptoms versus the source. So
Mhm.
if you're, because someone can pop a Midol, a Tylenol, a ibuprofen to get rid of the migraine, but wonder why is it back 5 hours later or
Mhm.
2 days later, things of that particular sort. So understanding those particular sources are very important. And so time management can help this particular process as a result of being able to streamline your
Mhm.
particular day and increase your productivity. So there's a lot of connections here in terms of stress management, well-being for the individual, the executive, and the business owner. So one of the questions that I have for you is, how has your strategy changed during the lockdown concerning productivity and your business?
It's just giving myself a break. I'm telling everyone, give yourself a break. I'm being kinder with other people who are making big mistakes. It's just that no one is firing on all cylinders these days. We all have this additional stress and worry and anxiety, and it is wearing on people. So we're not going to be able to get as much done now as we did during the before times. And the after times may bring us back to that level of productivity. We might change our priorities, things. I don't know when we're going to be in the after times. It's going to be a while.
Mhm.
But it's just a matter of taking things easy. And I've added things to my to-do list that that were natural before. I have to remind myself to exercise because I don't leave the house. We would have friends over every month or so. So that would force us into cleaning up the apartment. So now I have to put cleaning up the apartment and tidying and dealing with the clutter on my daily list so that we do it a little bit at a time instead of this big emergency. Okay, everything's perfect now. Mm-hmm. And so it's things like that were just the rhythms of life have changed.
Okay. So you're getting better at organize. Other people are taking the time. I encourage a lot of people to take the time now in lockdown to begin to increase your knowledge. This is the time, the downtimes are important to increase your knowledge. So when the up times or the out times come, then you will be able to have more asset to give to the world. While on the other hand, you're stating that what you're doing right now is the opposite. You are slowing down, you're allowing yourself to relax. But that could be something that somebody does need, because as an entrepreneur and a high-powered executive, your brain runs so much that you feel like you cannot get off of this wheel that keeps turning, even when it's time to leave the building, even when you're driving in your car and you're going to pick up some ice cream, just a week, I could have done it. I could have done this. And it took me a while to reprogram myself to say that, no, this is my private time. And in my private time, so I began to affirm and repeat that every single day. My private time means that I don't think of A, B, C, or D. So everybody has their different practices that they input. And I think it's very important to have self-care. And then I also think it's very important to have time management effectiveness so that all of it can work together over time of practicing to equal work-life balance. Work-life balance looks different for everybody. And it doesn't mean that what we've seen in the 50s and the 60s. It doesn't mean that. So it has to have its own definition, but it's a must to be incorporated. And so giving to accomplish your particular app, that's one of the agendas of your app. Do you have any apps or for future rollouts? Anything else?
It's funny. I laugh because my partner, Anthony, is very focused on trying to think of what we can do down the road. And I'm very much trying to focus on the steps ahead of us. Okay. We've been talking about doing a timekeeping app or time tracking app, not necessarily to replace your calendar, but for those of us who are freelancers, it's useful to have an app to track how much time you're spending on a project, even if you're not charging hourly. But also there is the problem of, what did I do all day? I bounce back and forth, and if I don't actually write down things in my planner, I look back and say, I know I did stuff. What? Where did this day go? Did I actually accomplish anything? Something like that, you can actually tap into different activities so you can actually see. And if you really want to get hardcore about it, you can. You'll be able to look back and see what you're spending too much time on, what you need to be more efficient with, what you need to do more of or less of. And it's a way of fine-tuning your own systems. But that's not going to be out this year. So right now it's just this. And we want to do a good job of supporting each language. So it's only going to be in English initially. It's going to be in Spanish next. Because we are based in the States. So English and Spanish are the two main languages. So that's going to come out soon. That is, we want to be able to have customer service for Spanish speakers and then start rolling out more languages. Okay.
So you can find the app at Accomplist.app, right? And where can we find you on social media if someone has questions or want to link up with you?
On Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, we are Team Accomplist.
Okay.
So same thing across all three.
All right, Team Accomplist. You heard it, folks. So it's very important to understand that not only is organization important, but the aspect of decluttering, not only your home, your environment, your office, but your mind is very important. So in order to have that peak performance, you must operate and practice in multiple areas of your particular life, home life and work life, because these are all components of who you are. You can't be perfect at one and then not be efficient at the other. There are people who meet their outcomes, their goals at work, but when they come home, their relationship is it is a mess. They're not communicating. So all of these bear. So remember, not only does your efficiency run dry if you have poor areas in your life, but if you have poor time management, that's relevant as well. You must have a work-life balance. So guys, what I want to do is I want to thank you for joining the Chantay Golson Show today. I want to thank Jen Anderson for her time. Go ahead and lock your calendars for the Accomplist app as it gets ready to roll out September 2020. And so remember, be productive today. Have some self-consideration, have self-care, love yourself, whatever that means. Getting up at your desk, taking a 5-minute break, making sure you get away from your office for your lunchtime, just whatever it is, take a moment to have self-care. And we'll talk to you next Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, send me a message if you want to any ideas for the show. Make it a great one. Bye, everybody.